And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Bubba and the Bloom, episode 68. Going to talk about some starting pitchers that either gained or lost in their ERA in July compared to the rest of the season. Going to recap some interesting news and notes from the last couple days since we last talked to you guys on Tuesday, and much, much more. You can find me on the X at BDentric, the podcast at Bubba Bloom Pod, and my co-host, as always, on the X at Ryan BHQ. Ryan Bloomfield, how we doing, my friend?
We're good. Just cobbled together some additional news items right before the show as we're watching games together. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, I'm doing well. Enjoyed the trade deadline show. I thought that was pretty cool. And I know we've talked a little bit about doing a couple episodes a week, and who knows, maybe we'll start doing that at some point. So that was fun doing that.
It definitely was fun. We always enjoy doing it. I'll speak for us. We enjoy doing this show. So we've been behind the scenes thinking of ways to do more stuff. Let's put it that way.
It's not the 6-figure salary only that is keeping us going.
Yeah, the high noon sponsorship is not the only thing keeping us going. We're plugging along for more than just that, of course. But,
yeah.
Well, speaking of high noons, FPAS is coming up. It's a couple months away now, like 2 months away, I believe, 3 months away. I can do math. So what's your thoughts on this? It's actually 2 months away. Yes. 3 months. I'm an idiot. It's in November. It's in November, not October. 3 months away. So Bloomfield, what are we talking? We're talking golf. We're talking baseball. We're talking conferences. We're talking everything. So what's the latest and greatest?
Just double check your flights there, Bubba. Make sure November.
They're good. It's in my phone. We're good.
3 months from today will be like the Friday of first pitch. So our golf event will be done.
We might be doing this.
Bad, but yeah, we might even be doing this podcasting during the show on Friday night. That would be pretty sweet. So the latest full, I guess price deadline just wrapped up July 31st, but still plenty of time to not only sign up and join us out there, but also to get in on our growing attendee list for Bubba and the Bloom Open. So
the Bubba and the Bloom Open, it's got such a ring to it. So yeah, the more people that come, we have a lot of ideas. So the more people that come, the more cool stuff that'll take place. The Bubba and Bloom Open. So
yeah, we're bouncing some ideas just to make it, I don't know, make it a little bit more special than just playing golf back and forth. So we'll see. More to come.
Like I know even like Rob DiPietro reached out to me, and if he makes it to FPAS, which looks like he will, he asked if he could even just like get a golf cart and cruise around and like serve drinks and talk to people throughout the day. So like it can be a full deal, people. Like if you don't golf, you just want to come hang out, let's go. So let us know what's going on. Golf more the merrier, but it'll be a great time at Dobson Ranch.
To actually have fans.
Yes,
at our event would be
surrounding the 18th green to watch me triple bogey. It's going to be absolutely electric. It'll be so much fun. So, yeah, come check it out. Have some fun with us, and it'll be a great kickoff to a amazing week of baseball discussion, debauchery, baseball in a good way, debauchery, not bachelor party debauchery, but baseball and much, much more. Maybe bachelor party too. Who knows? But I'll speak for myself and no one else.
Some nights.
News and notes from the last couple of days. Like we said earlier, we recorded on Tuesday, covered all the trade deadline and some other goodness. Anthony Rizzo. Baseball at least did the good thing and did the news drop right before the kickoff of the preseason of the NFL. I'll say that much. They were at least competent enough to do that. The part they weren't competent enough about, Ryan, is Rizzo's going to the IL with concussion symptoms that trace back 67 days when he collided with Fernando Tatis Jr. at first base. There's a million tweets. I saved some if we need to go through them about the stat differences of the day before that and then everything since then. It's dramatic. I know we've talked about I dropped Rizzo like 3 weeks ago in a league, so it's so bad. To hear him describe how he feels hungover every day, he feels lost, like all these things. I just don't understand how an organization, any organization, let alone the Yankees, had this happen. This is mind-boggling to me, so I'll get your thoughts on it. I could literally probably talk a whole podcast about the just ridiculousness of this, but like this is bad.
Yeah, bad. I mean, really, first and foremost, just for Rizzo, like.
Yeah, the dude has been flying on planes with a concussion. You're not supposed to be flying, let alone everything else. Like what his brain might look like now compared to 67 days ago. Oh boy.
Serious stuff. And so, yeah, just beyond just there's stat differences, and they're quite stark. You can find it. It's I'm not going to cite the exact numbers, but like Rizzo was really good before the injury and really bad after that. And even some of the quotes from even Rizzo today, this is from Brian Hoke, who's the MLB.com beat writer for the Yankees, quoted Rizzo saying, "Man, I don't understand how I missed that pitch. I would swing at a pitch middle away, and I thought it was 3 feet off the plate. Things like that really started making me concerned." So it's just stuff like that where, like, yeah, you worry. I mean, it in the non-important part, it explains like what happened to Rizzo from a production standpoint. But I don't know. I don't know if this is something that sometimes the team hides these things. Sometimes the player doesn't tell the team. Sometimes it's a little bit of both. I don't know. I don't really want to speculate on that. But just news that you don't want to hear at all for Rizzo and just how it was handled.
Yeah, it just makes me wonder because, like, when you see the collision, there should have been some sort of concussion test, and obviously Rizzo.
I believe he did go through protocols. I did see,
and that's kind of what I'm wondering. Like, how are these protocols? Like, this brings me back as a Dolphins fan. Remember when Tua nearly died last year, and the immense amount of flack the Dolphins got for weeks about Tua, and then it went away once Tua was quote unquote healthy. The idea that the Yankees went 67 days with nothing happening to Rizzo, like, I just can't wrap my head around this scenario. I know, like you said, you don't know, was Rizzo telling the truth? Where the Yankees, there's a million things, fingers are going to get pointed everywhere. Because there's a good chance a lawsuit could take place here. Like, this could get serious if things go south, unfortunately. But it's pretty wild. That's all I'm going to say. I did not expect to see this today, and it makes sense, like you said, for the production standpoint of Anthony Rizzo. But honestly, I don't think he's going to play the rest of the year. This is one of those, like, if you played that long with concussion, what's going on between his ears right now, there's going to be some serious testing taking place, I think.
Yeah, and that's to kind of pivot it to like what you do in fantasy. I don't know. I mean, we don't know. It seems hard to imagine Rizzo coming back and all of a sudden being who he was in the first half of this year or before the injury. Right. So, like, from a pure fantasy standpoint, I guess he's going to go on the IL officially, so you can IL him. But in leagues where you don't have the IL, I think you've got to unfortunately cut bait and go elsewhere. And I think for next year, like, again, to keep this strictly fantasy, like, just tuck this away, where if he's feeling good next spring and looking good, I think you can obviously discount any of the post-injury stats. I'm not saying 100%. To fully take the April through May numbers and prorate that, but I think you obviously take a big grain of salt with what Rizzo has not done recently.
Yeah, I'm with you there. So, yeah, we'll see. Because, like, you guys like Justin Morneau dealt with concussions for a long time after the fact. So this is obviously very, very new. Like, this news came out today, a Thursday, as we're recording. So there will, it not just be in the New York market, how serious the situation is now that it took place. We're going to get a lot of news on this in the coming days. A lot. I don't know how much, because technically there is doctor-patient confidentiality and everything. They can't release but both sides of the party are going to want their story told. So it's going to get interesting over the next few days. But fantasy-wise, I'm with you. This is I would be surprised if he's back this year. Let's just put it that way. And if he does come back, what capacity he comes back in, that's kind of questionable too. I don't think the Yankees are even going to – they still might sneak into the playoffs. I'm not going to say that, but I'm not big on them overall. So I think Rizzo's probably sitting for a bit. So, yeah.
I will say, I mean, in weeks where the Yankees face righties, Jake Bauers looms again as a potential streamer. True. Like, I know he's only hitting – I think he's hitting less than 230, but power has been fantastic. He has actually led off and actually played on Wednesday against a lefty, hit fifth, but has been leading off and is not a bad streamer despite a 32% strikeout rate. The power numbers look really good for Jake Bauers. So in those weeks where Yankees get a bunch of righties, Jake Bauers is actually a pretty decent fill-in for Rizzo.
Yeah, that's a very, very good call on that one. Ryan doing the professional thing and keeping us on fantasy. I appreciate that, because I could rant on the opposite side the entire show. Let's talk about something else.
Got to steer this thing down the straight and narrow.
I appreciate it. Every now and then. That's why we have a team here. Shane McClanahan, just another Ray in the book of oh no when it comes to arm situations. McClanahan left to start with left forearm strain, but it's his outer forearm, they said. And Kevin Cash was optimistic because it's the inner forearm where the issue. Yeah, I see you doing it on the screen. The thing that really looked interesting to me, his first set of testing on Thursday, and the report from I forget the main beat reporters, Mark something or other from Tampa Bay. He said the Rays have their diagnosis, and they're going to place him on the Mark Tompkin, I think it is, or something. Tompkin. They're going to release. They have his diagnosis, and they're going to put him on the IL for further testing and imaging as they discover what's really going on. Basically, that doesn't make me feel great. That's all I got to say.
No, and makes it feel like a drop for me if you have McClanahan, just because it's getting late early, like 2 months. I can't see McClanahan just coming back in the minimum or even like a month until what do you get in September? Interesting takeaway. I think it was Michael Simeone who just kind of threw it out there. It was like, what do we do with Rays pitchers next year? Because like
every one of
this
them
would be a hell of a lot of coincidi if this all happens. So something to think about.
Because Glass now came back this year because he missed last year with TJ. They got Shane Baz had Tommy John. Fleming's got elbow inflammation. McClanahan's got his deal. Rasmussen elbow surgery. Jeffrey Springs Tommy John. Like all this season. We
didn't cover it on the trade deadline show, but if I'm Aaron Savali, I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, we used to be all pumped having pitchers go to Tampa Bay because they know what to do with them. Yeah, they know what to do with them. Maximize everything, get Tommy John surgery, and move on is what it sounds like right about now.
Yeah, and not to steal your thunder, we'll go in a little bit deeper dive on this guy later. But Zach Littell,
yes sir,
I think is gonna enter that Rays rotation, and I think is a pretty sneaky ad. But I'll let you pump that hype train.
That's right. That's right. Speaking of pumped hype trains. We didn't understand what the Miami Marlins are doing. I still really don't, because they rested Eury Perez for a couple of weeks and they pitched him in the minors. He's coming back to the rotation next week. Craig Mish reported that. I believe it's Tuesday or Wednesday that Eury Perez will be back. So the whole idea of him resting and using innings in the minors is done, hopefully. Edward Cabrera got sent back to AAA a couple of days ago, so he pretty much slides right into there for now. You got to imagine Johnny Cueto's not long for this world. So you got Eury Perez coming back.
The rotation, at least.
Yes, that's the base. Fantasy world is what I'm referring to, people. This is the wrong show if you're thinking the other direction. So yeah, Eury Perez, he's coming back next week. For those that held him like you should have, good on you.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say. If Perez was cut in your league and is still available, I think it's worth throwing that fab hammer around for. It sounds like, I mean, the Marlins they're going for it. I mean, we saw the move for David Robertson, even though that kind of hasn't worked out so far. But they're going for it, at least for a wild card. And I think Perez, I think this was the plan all along, is just kind of dial him back a little bit in the middle of the season, and Perez is going to be a full go from here on out. You don't have time to wait and see how he looks in his first start back. I'm a little curious if this is like a rest versus rust kind of thing and how rusty Perez is, but yeah, you're going all in for this guy if he's somehow available.
Yep. Put in all your chips. Joe Ryan, it's been a rough go for Joe Ryan over the last month and a half or so. I've mentioned it a lot of times talking about underdog picks because it's always over under 2.5 runs. He's averaging usually 3 to 4 runs plus every start. Like, he's giving up runs. He still gets his strikeouts, but he has not been nearly as effective. Got blown up in his last start. Joe Ryan hit the IL on Thursday with a left groin strain. So he's going to be out for at least 2 starts. We'll see how much longer than that. And then, folks, don't go running to your waiver wire for this one. Dallas Keuchel is getting called up to take his spot in the rotation. If you play DFS and you listen to Quick Hits, you know what we're going to do when Dallas Keuchel takes the mound. So that means do not pick him up for your season-long fantasy teams.
I was curious about that. First off, I will say with Joe Ryan, so he's on our Bloom board list tonight. There's a July faller. The skills are actually still pretty good. So
it's
a little
runs,
bit,
baby. It's home runs.
A little bit of home run. I don't want to say home run luck, but the home runs bit him. So not super concerned about Joe Ryan if the injury isn't too bad. Yeah, Dallas Keuchel. He's got like a 1.15 ERA across his rehab outings. I don't know if Louis Varland is hurt. Like, that's who I thought would come back and re-enter the Twins rotation, but That is not the case. I couldn't find anything on Varland before the show, but I know I would not bet on a Dallas Keuchel renaissance. It's not what you want to do. This could be the Domingo. No, not Domingo. Julio Teheran.
Yes.
The Julio Teheran path to implosion.
It definitely could be, and I'm looking forward to the 3 starts he has before he gets DFA'd. It's going to be absolutely amazing. Yeah. Marcus Stroman, he heads to the 15-day IL with a hip injury. He's been roughed up a bit of late as well. You got Justin Steele, Drew Smyly, Tyon Hendricks, and then your boy. You keep wanting your boy to enter the rotation. They keep kind of holding back. They kind of have to go with him now. So are you going in this weekend on I'll say your boy to let you have the stage on this one?
Yeah, Mr. Hayden Wesneski. I'm very interested. I think he did pitch. Let's see, did he
made
pitch
a spot start last week, I believe.
Yeah, it was only. So that's the only thing is Wesneski has only thrown 2 innings in each of his last 2 appearances. Can't see the pitch count on Fangraphs.
Yeah, you can hit more batted ball data if you're on game logs.
Okay, screw it. That's the only thing is like right away. I don't know how stretched out Wesneski will be, but I think at a time where like for me at least the last 2 waiver wire runs for starting pitching has been a complete disaster. So I'm definitely interested in Hayden Wesneski and should get some run support with the Cubs. Good Lord. I listened to your first pitch pod and they set all kinds of records with the 36 runs in 2 games.
Well, I didn't even mention some of the stuff. It gave him like 140 runs since the All-Star break to lead baseball. If you even took the 36 runs off, though, they still lead all of baseball in runs scored since the All-Star break. That's how impressive they've been, because people would be like, oh, of course, they scored 36 runs, blah, blah. No, you took that away, there's still like 3 more runs than the Braves. Like, that's pretty impressive if you want to break it all down. With Wesneski, threw 24 pitches last time, 35 in the start prior to that. When he did go to AAA in his 3 July starts, it was 3 innings, 5 innings. So he kind of stretched out a little bit in AAA if you need to go that route. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they stretch him out. They're going to need him, though, so they'll have to go from there. Bo Bichette, this was a weird one because, like, oh, MRI comes back clean, day-to-day, just some inflammation in his knee. Then he goes to the IL after they trade for Paul DeJong. Shocker. We talked about it before. The injury looked nasty. So the fact that it was no IL stint was, but they're saying he's not going out to rehab. He's going to stay with the team and keep training with the team and hope to come back in 10 days. So thoughts on the Bo Bichette injury?
No, just a plug for First Pitch Arizona was saying that in the injury panel, a structurally clean MRI is a good thing, but it doesn't mean they're in the clear. And I mean, this is why Toronto made the move for Paul DeJong. Not a serious injury, thankfully, but something you got to deal with. You're holding on to Bichette. Doesn't sound like. I mean, you got to take the team at their word and hope it's a minimum stay. And I'm not really that interested in starting Paul DeJong. I have a few draft and hold teams with Kevin Biggio and Santiago Espinal in my starting lineup, which is very concerning.
Times are tough.
Those times are very tough. I actually have a team, our early DC, which you're winning, Bubba. My squad, I think I'm in like 4th place. My squad has 25 hitting points, and it has Ronald Acuna. Like, that is really hard to do.
That's really hard to do.
That's the squad where I'm rolling with Kevin Biggio and Santiago Espinal. So
nice.
So don't look. You don't need to worry about me climbing up and getting you, Bubba.
Speaking of that, we're in another DC together. The 3rd place team I looked the other night, 71 hitting points. 71.
Wow.
I keep meaning to look at his roster. I never do it. 71 hitting points is bonkers. So that's like half of the eligible hitting points almost. That's unheard of. A couple other little news and notes here. Brandon Woodruff is returning on Sunday to join the Brew Crew on the mound. Nestor Cortez back Saturday for the Yankees. Any thoughts on those two besides obviously you're happy to have them back for fantasy purposes?
Yeah, man. Like, this is going to sound really bad, but like, it's going to be freaking glorious next Monday when I put Brandon Woodruff back in I've been holding that guy I mean, we talked a lot before the season about Brandon Woodruff, how high we were on him. I think he was pretty sure he was top 5 starting pitcher for both of us in our preseason rankings. And so I have held all this time. A lot of people have. I think he's still 100% in 15 teamers on the NFBC. It's going to be pretty sweet to get him back in there. I will say, so do you know what the matchup is?
I got it right here.
Sunday. I'm wondering,
Sunday,
for leagues where it's
Pittsburgh versus Johan Oviedo.
No, you're throwing him. You're rolling him no matter what. I was
gonna
say if it was a tough spot and maybe you want to see how Woodruff looks, but no, you're rolling with that. Pittsburgh is
like Nestor Saturday versus Houston. You might take that one off.
That sounds a little dicey, but I think I coined the term on the last pod that Pittsburgh is death, and so you want to go with that with Woodruff. So that'll be exciting, man.
Let me get your thoughts on this one. Max Fried returns on Friday to face the Chicago Cubs in Wrigley. Hottest team in baseball.
Check that win.
I'm actually going to sit Fried because he's only up to, I think, 65 pitches anyways. They're still working him back, plus the Cubs. I'll take this one off.
I started him in draft and holds, but
if you have to, I get it. I probably did. I say that. I'll probably look at one of my deep messes of a league, and I probably do have him started somewhere. But if I had the choice, I'd probably sit back on that one. Another guy I didn't have on the list, Thairo Estrada, is due back this weekend. For all you people out there that love your Thairo like I do, he's back. They only play 2 games against Oakland. It's 2 games. They have Friday off. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. We'll talk about our matchups. But do you know why they have Friday off?
We've seen that with some of these local rival ones this year. They either had Friday or Sunday off if it's a weekend series. Because most of them are on the weekdays. We've seen some teams with 5 games, so they only play Tuesday, Wednesday. Remember that week where someone had Thursday and Friday off?
Yeah, two in a row, 2 days in a row. So what the hell are we doing?
These little 2-game interleague sets get a little goofy out there. A couple more things we were watching right before we started. Like Ryan said, we were watching the game together, talking. We were discussing the Lance Lynn trade, the Ryan Yarbrough trade to the Dodgers, and seeing kind of how that would play out. Well, the other day with Yarbrough coming to the team, they announced Michael Grove is going to the bullpen. Well, we have another bit here. Emmett Sheehan is pitching out of the relief right now as we speak. So Sheehan is the other shoe to drop heading to the bullpen, which AKA means you could probably drop him on your fantasy teams too.
Yeah, probably. I mean, there is so he did come in the 6th tonight and is still pitching in the 8th. So there is that bulk inning follower type of deal. So maybe I don't know, maybe they roll with Yarbrough for a couple innings and then move Sheehan in, or Lance Lynn morphs back into Chicago Lance Lynn and Sheehan has to go in. But yeah, you probably want to dump Sheehan. It looks like that's how they're going to make room, and Kershaw coming back soon as well. So just an interesting tidbit as we started up the show tonight.
And the last but not least here, Shohei Ohtani left after 4 shutout innings, stayed in the game to DH, did quite well there. But this is a trend of late between the blister, the fingernail, cramps. He's been getting pulled from games a lot lately. Sometimes stays in the hit, most of the time does. But, the question I have for you was, because we know he's an amazing ball player. We're not lucky. We're not worthy of probably watching a player like this all the time. Would you ever start him as a pitcher right now?
I mean, that's the thing. And right now I would say no. Just saying. Because it just and it is hard to say because yes, he did throw a 1-hitter to start before this.
He also hit 2 home runs in the next game.
But he also hit 2 home runs later that day. So it's tough to make that pitcher over hitter call right now, because you're right. It just seems like it's that cramping, and especially when cramping in your fingers. I see Nick Pollock's in the chat. Do pitchers get cramping in their?
Is it a split finger thing, Nick Pollock?
It's weird.
Talk to us.
But no, I actually have Ohtani in Tout Wars, but it's pitcher only Ohtani, and so in that case, I mean, I'm rolling with him. The dude's elite, but just something to think about. If you have that option of one or the other, I would lean heavily hitter until you see he can consistently get 5-6 innings, that sort of thing. So I also just rooting like hell, man, for nothing.
Playoffs,
he's so close to a $500 million contract that just make it through the season healthy, Shohei.
Yep, just make it through. Soderstrom goes deep for his first career home run right now. So Soderstrom and Geloff both went deep in the same game. Look at Scott Jenstead you have a future in Vegas with this team. All right, let's talk weekly games, Ryan. It was a great week last week. I think we did pretty good with our picks. I think it was fun indeed. Do you want to recap anything on this?
I mean, you get so happy when you sweep and put me on the spot.
I dominated. It wasn't a sweep; it was domination.
In fairness, when I sweep, it's the same approach. So I'll give you that. You're consistent. It was pretty domination.
It was.
Max Kepler had 9 points. Your highest point total for any hitter. Hit a homer, I believe, on Saturday.
Yep.
That worked out for you. Beat me 9-3. I had Will Brennan. Steven Matz, who we've been talking about the last few shows, pitched extremely well for you. Got your 8 points to my Brandon Pfaadt's 5 2/3 points. Did have to slide into you today, and I think Pfaadt would have got 13 today. I would have won.
He would have crushed today.
Pitched.
Yeah.
I mean, it was your San Francisco Giants, so easy level
surprised.
of competition there. But but no, really all around a pretty good streaming week for both of us, which
definitely
kind of, I don't know. It's getting fun, man. The last 4,
it's competitive.
Yeah, the last 5 weeks, it's been a sweep. I swept 5 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, then you 3 weeks ago, me 2 weeks ago, you last week. So you're up 15-14 on our round of golf bet at first pitch. It's fun.
I want to ask you right now. I know I'm going to deviate slightly from this game for a second, but with the Brendan Pfaadt thing, okay, it's his third go around, if I'm correct, with the D-backs, and we've seen him in the minors, and he's been pretty good for the most part. The hype train's ridiculous. We know the first 2 times were rough. This third time through, though, it's been pretty good. Like, the matchups were tough before today. Since he got recalled on the 22nd at Great American Small Park, still only 3 runs in 6 innings, 6 Ks. Those are home runs late in that outing. At Seattle, 5 2/3, 3 earned, 3 strikeouts. The strikeouts were down, but still 3 earned or less. And then we mentioned the Giants game today, 7 innings, 1 earned, 7 Ks. Are you a believer in Brandon Pfaadt now? Because I know I took the chance and picked him up in a league when he got called up again. He's only 25% rostered in OCs right now. But again, I'll give you the floor. I know I like to talk a lot. But Arizona, he faces the Dodgers at home next week. Then he gets San Diego at home. And then he goes right now it's just Dodgers and San Diego is all I see for him right now. So what's your thoughts on Pfaadt?
I mean, I kind of mentioned this the last time we talked about him. It's just you can't give up on these guys. This happens more frequently than your Eury Perez, who just comes in and mows everybody down. The interesting thing this time around, the third time around with Pfaadt, is all the scouting reports, at least that I've read, are just that the 4-seam is just kind of marginal, and he needs to kind of throw that less. And so far, Pfaadt has been doing that in, again, just looking at 2 starts since he's been back, but that's all we have to go off of. Through the first 3 months of the season, Pfaadt was throwing his 4-seamer over 50% of the time, so very heavy on the fastball. His July start, 40%, and then today, Brandon Pfaadt threw his 4-seam fastball less than 1/3 of the time, and so he replaced that with a ton more sliders and more changeups. So that's what, and we'll probably sound like a broken record by the end of this show. But in those small samples, that's what I want to see is there some kind of change in approach or whatever that he's been working on in AAA that when he comes back now, Pfaadt reintroduces, and we're seeing that. So I do give this some credence. The last start was at Cincinnati, so that was definitely not a cakewalk. Seattle is Seattle, but I'm starting to believe in Mr. Pfaadt, given the pitch mix change and the improved whiffs and better control.
Perfect. Just want to bring that up real quick. Weekly schedule, or at least for the weekend matchups here. What's standing out to you as you look at it? Have we got some divisional matchups, a couple cookie cutters? I believe we have Coors in play this weekend too. So, what do you got on this one?
Coors,
Coors is not in play.
Yeah, it's at St. Louis.
We get Great American Small Park. That's what we get. I know it's one.
We get Small Park. We get the Nationals going to Great American Small Park. So that's actually actionable. Plenty of streamers available on the Nats, and look for a big weekend from CJ Abrams, who's just been freaking
amazing,
awesome this year. So and it's not just Great American Small Park; it's the pitchers that you're facing at Great American Small Park. So there's that. I'm seeing just like the more divide in streaming matchups. We talked about this a little bit at the trade deadline, but this happens most years where right after the deadline, it's just the divide between good and bad grows. And so you've got Cleveland Guardians getting 3 righties against the White Sox. You want to go for that. The Cardinals, even though it's not at Coors, get Colorado. Philly gets 3 Kansas City righties. Milwaukee gets Pittsburgh. Those are all like, I think Milwaukee scored like 14 runs tonight.
Yes,
so
did.
Any like Joey Weimer, Sal Frelick.
Sal Frelick went deep.
Yep. You want to target those guys. Those were the ones that stuck out to me the most. The Cubs Atlanta series, just from a pure watching standpoint, I think is going to be a ton of fun.
Yeah, that will be a very, very good one indeed. Let's talk about our picks for the week then. Let's have some fun with that. I'll let you have the floor. What's your hitting pick for the week?
A little worried this might not play on Sunday, but Luis Rengifo is my man this week. Has just been on fire for the Angels, pretty much hitting leadoff while Brandon Drury is out. But Drury's supposed to come back. I think the Angels said he wanted to play in a couple more rehab games. So maybe the Sunday starts in question for Rengifo. But Rengifo has been, over the last month, hitting 295, 380 OBP, 6 home runs with the skills to back it up. He's been on fire. And I don't know about you, Bubba, but so I wrote up Rengifo, must have been for a Fab column this last weekend at HQ. I thought he was like 34 years old. Maybe I'm getting him mixed up with someone. He's only 26. I think of him as like this old utility man, but he's only 26. And so I think even if the playing time has to be there, but it's hard for the Angels to sit him right now. And so I don't know. I'm just rolling with the hot hand with the skill support, Rengifo.
Yep, I'm rolling with the hot hand as well because we're doing total bases and walks. So similar to my Max Kepler pick last week, we're staying in Minnesota. I'm going with Matt Wallner. The downside is he hits towards the bottom of the order. He hit 6th the last couple of games, but the dude's got a homer, a double, and a homer in his last 3 games. He's got a couple walks over those games. He's basically Joey Gallo-esque, but doesn't strike out as much. Hits just for a ton of power. Decent eye at the play, 10% walk rate. And more importantly, for the big bad lefty, he gets 3 righties against Arizona. And, they're not the worst pitchers in the world, but he gets to face Merrill Kelly, Ryan Nelson, and Zach Gallen. Nelson's the wild card because he can be good or just horrific. Yeah. Then you got Merrill Kelly, who's more good than bad, but could be bad. And Gallen's been average of late. Like, he hasn't been like the lights out Cy Young ace. So I'm pretty sure I'll get 3 starts at least with Wallner. And I'll take my chances of him getting some extra base hits here to rack me up some points and go in that direction. So that's what I'm going for, is the hopefully hit in the middle of the order, give me a couple extra base hits, and go from there.
Had some bids in on Wallner in all my 15-team leagues last weekend. And so if he's still available, I think he's hit at least 1 home run this week. I know he had a 3-run homer.
He's hit 2.
At 2. So
in his last 3 games.
As long as the Twins are playing right-handed, it's strictly a platoon bat, but I have not looked at the Twins schedule for next week. But I think if it's right-hand heavy, Matt Wallner is a great pickup in 12.
It's Manning, Erod, Olsen, Skubal, Sanchez, Walker, Suarez. That's 4 lefties.
Strike what I just said from the record.
Unless that changes.
Yes. Unless Erod decides to go to LA.
Because he opts out. Well, the thing is, there's I joke about it on my first pitch and my quick hits. Like, it feels like we're in late September with all the changes in these rosters, and it's only August right now. Like, some of these teams are so bad that they're just all over the place with things. It's pretty wild. Who's your pitcher this week? Because we're going to talk a lot about him later too.
Yeah, we'll talk about him later. I went Luis Medina for Oakland against your San Francisco Giants, and yeah, we'll dive into him a little bit later in the Bloom board. And there were quite a few listener questions about Medina as well. So me picking him is at least maybe a kiss of death, but at least a sign that I'm confident in what I've seen from Medina lately.
all I'll say is I have rostered Medina in a handful of leagues over the last couple of weeks. So I'm supportive.
Ahead of the game.
I'm supportive of what you're saying with Mr. Luis Medina. I picked up Zach Lytle, is what I'm going to say it is. So I hope I pronounced that correctly. He's the man that's going to be entering the Rays rotation. He faced the Astros his last time out, 5 innings, 8 hits, 2 runs, no walks, 4 Ks. He's been pitching primarily out of relief, but he's got 30 Ks in 29 innings so far. I like what we're seeing overall. He's got 11% swinging strike is fine. Limits the contact, gets almost 33% of the O swing. He's got some nasty stuff. I know there's some pretty sharp people that were already in on him last week before this. I was not, because I'm not. Like, that's a 15-team move last week to me. Now it's very viable in 12s and whatnot. And to top it off, I love his matchup. It was between him and one other guy that I went with Lytle in this one. He gets the Detroit Tigers. It's a Tigers team that had their moments recently, but they're back to being the Detroit Tigers of old. So it really feels like an outing where Lytle could probably go 5 yet again. Maybe 1 or 2 runs and a K per inning. I could really see that one playing out with this matchup, and that's why I went with Zach Lytle.
He pitched like 80 pitches in his last appearance, even if it was bullpen. So he's pretty stretched out.
Yeah, that's stretched out for the Rays. I know we talked about it before. They try to keep almost all their guys to 80 pitches. I guess their thing, 80 to 85 pitches for most guys. So that apparently that's not working though. So maybe try something else to keep these guys.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is like
they're telling you go hard for 80.
I pray for this guy next year.
Yeah, but it was a great question Simeon says. Like, do we even draft Rays pitchers next year? That's basically what he said. It's like he's not wrong with the way things have been going. It's pretty gnarly. But when they do pitch, they're great. Just when are they gonna pitch?
Just be ready to have some plan Bs.
Yes, for baseball. All right, everybody, let's talk Bloom boards. And it's already up because that's how we roll now. Ryan's got it down to a science now. We have entered August, and it's not the dog days of summer, folks. It's the heyday of the Bloom board. So why don't you let us know what we're talking about here? So it's a fun one because there's a lot of names that you look at and like, no way. And so it'll make it really fun here.
Even did a little edit to the board with a manual on the iPhone markup cross out of Ben Lively.
He's a professional, folks. He's a professional. We do not deserve this.
So this is just a check-in, and even I'm not Bubba with 3 to 4 podcasts every night doing daily recaps and DFS, but I do follow this game very closely, and even I miss a lot, especially in dog days in July, and especially once we get to August. I just miss things of like guys who have sneakily been good lately or bad lately. Usually it's the good lately that for me falls under the radar. So what I wanted to do for this board was just take a simple ERA in July, compare that to a pitcher's ERA over the course of the entire season, and just see the top 15 guys who improved the most from July versus the season, and the top 15 guys who did not, who got torched in July. We talk about strikeout minus walk rate all the time on the show as kind of the one pitching metric if you're going to pick one to use. So I threw that on the boards as well. So we've got ERA and we've got strikeout minus walk rate both for the 2023 season and in July. And a common theme, what we'll look at here a lot of times is with small samples, it could just be fluky, it could be schedule, but you want to look at that strikeout minus walk and see if that's supporting the gains or not.
Yep, and let's start off with one that neither of us agree on here. That's Graham Ashcraft. He was one of the darlings of spring training, so many people drafted him, got what they deserved. No, I'm guilty of drafting a couple shares. I didn't overpay, but I got some. He was bad, really, really bad. Went to the minors, came back. So on 2023, a 5.31 ERA. In July, a 1.84 ERA. But the kicker, 7% K to walk on the season, 5% in July. He had a 5.21 xFIP in July also compared to that 1.84 ERA. What I really wanted to point out, though, he had 17 Ks in his 5 starts and 29 in the third innings. If you take out the one start where he struck out 8 Brewers, he pitched 24 innings and struck out 9 with 11 walks. So what's your thoughts on Graham Ashcraft, Ryan?
Just a disaster, man. Like if you rolled with Graham Ashcraft in July, like you should go to Vegas and like bet
You
some
should
money.
drop 'em
You are on a
quickly,
heater
too.
right now, and do it. Yeah, do it before Graham Ashcraft pitches again.
Crashes down to earth.
Yeah, Ash crashes.
Yeah, Ash crashes back.
It's interesting. So like Ashcraft had a 10.38 ERA, and we won't spend too much time on Mr. Ashcraft here, but it's just to prove a larger point. Bubba, you cited some of the strikeout and walk numbers, had the exact same strikeout rate and walk rate as he did in June. And the ERA went from 10.3 to 1.8. So like this is literally the same guy who just got extremely lucky in what I call, we did an episode on this, the trifecta of pitching factors, which is homer to fly ball, strand rate, and BABIP. And so it's just, yeah.
Yep.
Count your blessings if you roll with him in July and get off the train.
Before he ass crashes your team. Yeah. All right. Jameson Taillon. This is a fun one because I'm really, really honestly interested in your opinion on this. He had a 5.46 ERA on the season and a 2.67 ERA in July. K to walk still the same at 13. The reason I asked this is a guy that really caught my attention. His first July start was horrible, but the start right before the All-Star break on July 7th, 8 shutout innings with 4 Ks at the New York Yankees. And obviously, that Yankees team sucks. But comes back after the All-Star break. It's been at least 5 innings, 3 earned runs. He's 5 total runs over like the 17 innings pitched. Still, strikeouts are a thing. Only 14 total Ks, better than normal. It's almost a K per inning in the grand scheme of things. And he pitched decent even on Thursday night against the Reds at home. Like he puts another decent start out there. What is your thoughts on Taillon? Because in deeper formats, I've added him. Other formats I haven't, because I know one thing you'll say, I don't want to take all that thunder, is I look for strikeouts everywhere I go. He doesn't give any of that, but he's doing what he's done his entire career lately, is he's helping you in ratios. And that's one thing he does. So what's your thoughts on this July maybe improvement from Taillon for a guy that was hurt a lot of the first half of the season?
Yeah, I don't see it. Honestly, I don't see it. I don't see I don't see a pitch mix change. I don't see any higher velocity. Velocity actually went down a little bit in July. It was his slowest fastball velocity of any month. I see a schedule that includes the Yankees back when they did not have Aaron Judge, the Nationals, and 2 against St. Louis. So like I think a lot of this was schedule and just kind of luck. So is Jameson Taillon as bad as his season-long 5.46 ERA? No. But is he – obviously he's not a 2.67 ERA guy that we saw in July, but it's more like which side of that equation do I lean more to? It's more the season-long. Like I can see Taillon having a 4.50-plus ERA the rest of the way. I'm just not seeing the whiffs. So,
all right, that's fair. That's fair. Let's do it. Let's give the fans what they want, Bloomfield. Let's talk about the funky Cole Medina. Luis Medina on the season. He has a 5.35 ERA, 2.86 ERA in July. On the season, a 12 K to walk. In July, a 24% K to walk. This is a dude when he first he was called up before the Miller, for all Mason Miller and all this, because he has a great fastball as well. He had some good stuff. And just putting it all together wasn't working early on. I think it's safe to say he's figured something out potentially. I could be wrong. I know you took a deep dive into this, but even the xFIP of 311 is respectable. The walks aren't even that bad, like 1 walk or less than 3 out of 4 starts. A young arm, and he had some tough matchups. So what's your thoughts here on Luis Medina? Like, the only thing I guess I'll say before I give it to you, I don't know what his innings situation is. I'll look at that when you break this down. But what's your thoughts on Luis Medina?
So, yeah, I looked at the scouting report and that we have on HQ on Medina, and it was basically like excellent stuff. Good 3-pitch mix. The command was pretty bad, though, and that's what we saw. So, Bubba, I'm glad you mentioned that walk stat, because of Medina having 1 walk or less in 3 of his last 4 starts. That's what it's going to all come down to. Just process-wise, when I see an improvement in walk rate like this, the metric that I go to, the skill that I go to, is ball percentage. That's very tight with walk rate. 39% for Medina. The league average is like 36%. So I don't think the pinpoint control is going to be there, but I think Medina misses enough bats and has enough really good stuff to where if he can just hold like a league average walk rate the rest of the way, he'll be extremely effective. Throwing his slider a lot more, throwing his four-seamer a lot less in recent starts. And so that's what gets me really interested as well. I think he's replaced that four-seamer with a sinker, and then throwing that for strikes a little bit more. So I really like that. Anytime you have a starting pitcher with over the last 4 starts for Medina, a 17% swinging strike rate, like
Pretty good.
you're going to get whiffs. You're going to be dominant. It's just he's got to rein in the control. He's been able to do it 3 of the last 4 starts. I don't think he's totally out of the woods, but if he can just be a league average walk rate guy, I think Medina will be pretty damn good the rest of the way.
Yeah, I'm with you. And last year in the minors, he threw about 92 innings. Between the minors and the bigs, he's at 88, so he should be good the rest of the year, I think, honestly.
And he's been throwing. I'm like, he's, let's see, 84. So his last 5 starts, 100 pitches, 84, 81, 93, 91. So like
they're letting him go.
He's going 5+ innings. With Oakland, I have no idea what that win outlook is going to look like with the bullpen and the lineup that they have. But Medina's at least going 5-6 innings, which even further enhances that strikeout potential. So, but again, it all comes back to that walk rate. If he starts walking guys again, he's not going 5 or 6 innings.
And as you mentioned, he gets the Giants this weekend. And then if you look next week, he gets the Washington Nationals, which is a great one as well. The other matchup, as I just reloaded to get the weeks here, he gets the Nats on Friday. Then the following week gets Baltimore. So at least the next 2 matchups look pretty good for Mr. Medina.
80% rostered in 15-teamers, 5% in NFBC 12-teamers. So, again, like the badness of the starting pitching pool, I think he stands out.
Big time. I'm with you. Michael Lorenzen, we talked about him briefly at the trade deadline. I just wanted to bring him up because he threw 8 innings, 2 runs, 5 Ks in his Phillies debut on Thursday when we thought that was going to blow up in his face. 3.58 ERA on the season is already pretty good. 1.14 in July, 13% K to walk compared to 17% in July. I don't think he's this good, but I think he's very, very serviceable. I just get nervous being in Philadelphia. But what's your takes on Michael Lorenzen?
Yeah, I mean, he's on a heater right now. That's why he pops on the list. Like I don't know, 3.70 ERA ish the rest of the way. I think that's what I think of with Lorenzen. Just doesn't miss many bats. For Lorenzen, it's always been control, and I'm basically repeating myself with Medina. But Lorenzen had a double-digit walk rate each of the previous 3 seasons, gotten that down to 6% so far this season. So like if he keeps that walk rate in check, I think Lorenzen's a fine like SP3, SP4 maybe in 12s, and that works. He probably had his best run at the stretch of the season just now, but I'm not expecting like I take Lorenzen over Jameson Taillon very easily.
Yeah, that's fair.
Just kind of doing accomplish someone we just talked about.
That's fair. That's very fair. Nick Pivetta, we don't have to go too deep into that. Dude's a beast. He's awesome.
Man.
Yeah, we just roll with Nick. He will have a blow up. I'm waiting for it. It's going to happen. But that's the Nick Pivetta experience. As long as he gives me more of the good stuff than the bad, I'll take it the rest of the way. So just be prepared there. Blake Snell's been amazing. It is interesting to see the 18% K to walk in 12% in July. That is surprising, actually.
No, yeah, I don't know. Blake Snell, 7 walks, 5 walks, and 4 walks in his last 3 starts.
Well, the last 3 starts have been brutal. Yeah, that's right.
It's been really bad.
Once you mentioned that made sense.
And it's kind of crazy in those 3 starts. Yeah, 2 earned runs and 16 walks. That's wild.
Run good, my friend. Run good.
Yeah, I mean, good on him. It's second half Snell season, but that's gotta like literally implode if he keeps walking 4+ guys a game.
All right. Anybody else you want to hit on here? The only other guy I was kind of curious is Kenta Maeda, but he's kind of doing what he does as long as he's healthy. That's just a matter of health with Kenta. Anybody else?
Maeda is probably. I mean, we've talked about Mats a couple times, so no need to rehash that. Your boy Ross Stripling shows up on the list.
Yeah, he's not this good.
Took your critiques to heart from about a month ago when you bagged him.
Still not this
good. Maeda, a 28% strikeout minus walk is freaking elite.
Yeah.
This is like a 3.0 ERA
profile
pitcher, I think, the rest of the way.
As long as he's healthy, the dude's a beast.
Yep.
It's just he's had that issue in recent years. Yeah, all 5 July starts from Maeda, 3 earned runs or less, 6 or more Ks in every start. I guess is everything you dream about when you can just lock a dude into your fantasy lines. Given Kansas City, Seattle, Oakland, Kansas City. That's a nice little five start stretch. But yeah, still pretty good. Let's look on the flip side of this one. Framber just threw a no-no. He was battling injuries. We're going to let that one slide.
I should have. Yeah, that's production mishap. I can't cross out Ben Lively, but not cross out Framber Valdez.
I think we'll kind of just let that one go with Framber.
It's July only, so technically the no-hitter was August.
Oh, true. That's true.
So that's why Lively shows up here, because he got nuked August 1st.
They almost switch roles.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a guy that we've been waiting. Like, we laugh about, Andrew Abbott doesn't do it and Ashcraft's doing it. We always say the underlying metrics are pointing to blowups are coming. Blowups are coming. They came for Bryce Elder in the month of July. They finally came. Elder had a 3.18 ERA on the season, 5.96 in July, 10% K to walk, 1% K to walk in July. The K to walk already concerned me before July happened. That's why I was always kind of cautious with Bryce Elder. But it was brutal. It was mainly 2 starts, though. He gave 12 runs in 2 starts. He got 5 runs in the other 3. But still, 10 total strikeouts and 25 2/3 innings pitched in July. I ain't going to cut it, man, especially in a hitter-friendly ballpark in Atlanta. Not going to work.
Yep. I guess we'll victory lap this one because it's ugly, man. And we didn't really believe it. I think when we did our ERA projection versus year to date, it was Lance Lynn who was projected to be the biggest improver, and it was Bryce Elder projected to be
I think you're right,
the lowest. And so that those projections do know a thing or two. And yeah, you look at basically the same number of strikeouts as walks over an entire month, and I don't see this turning around for Bryce Elder all that soon.
Nope, not at all. Christian Javier is a very fun one to talk about here. At least for me, 4.33 ERA on the season, 6.86 in July, 15 K to walk to 17. So the K to walk improved, ERA ballooned. He's a guy that the walks were a major issue in one start. They did give him an extra day rest before his last start against Tampa Bay, and it looked great. They gave him an extra day before New York, and he started on Thursday. 4 2/3, 3 runs, 3 walks, 4 Ks. He nibbled way too much. I was watching a lot of that. He's a guy where he's showing signs of life, but then he gets blown up. So what is your outtake here on Christian Javier? Because I'm not starting in most places, but I still see the signs of hope, I guess.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm seeing so you can target a pitcher who allows a lot of fly balls as long as they have a good walk rate. And ditto, if you have a extreme ground ball pitcher, you can live with walks. You can't have both of those. You can't have a bad walk rate and a really high fly ball rate. It's just going to destroy how deep you go into the games and those home runs. Because you allow that many fly balls, Christian Javier has a 55% fly ball rate. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's one of the highest in baseball. You pair that with a walk rate where it's been, the lack of control with Javier. It's I don't know. It's tough. And I know we were both pretty high on Javier entering the season, and it looked like he was going to be coming through on that. I think he had a sub-3 ERA, through May. Looked really good, and then it has absolutely unraveled. So I don't know if it's something mechanical. The velocity has been steady throughout, so I don't know if he's hurt tipping pitches, although it's a little harder to tip pitches now with PitchCom. But I don't know. I don't really have an explanation other than walks and homers is a bad combination as a pitcher. And I know that's, thrilling analysis, but that's what he's doing.
Yeah, it's interesting with him because, like I said, I was even watching, not live, but I had my phone on Gamecast a lot for that game. And he had so many, deep counts. And it was just adding up on, so I got yanked after 4 2/3. His pitch count just too high. He had 3 runs in the first, didn't allow anything the rest of the game. So he was, effectively wild, I guess, is the best way to say it. It was a weird start for Christian Javier.
Yeah.
Now, since I'm an equal guy here, and I'll take my L's with my wins, Eduardo Rodriguez is on the board here. 2.96 season ERA, 5.66 July ERA, 20% K to walk compared to 21%. So the Ks were there. The walks, he only had 1 walk. He had 6 total walks, 1 game with 3 walks. Otherwise, he was really effective in his 5 starts. Two games where he gave it 4 more runs. The other 2 he gave it 6 total, or the 6 total runs. Does have a 3.76 xFIP, so they got that going for him. What's your thoughts on Erod? Because I'm always a guy that loves Erod. I'm also a guy that realizes he blows your whip up like it's no tomorrow. So it's tricky, but he does everything else for the most part pretty good. So what's your thoughts on Erod here? I'll get your unbiased opinion.
I'm going to be biased because I'm in a. I've talked to you about this a little bit. I'm in a dead-on-dead Heat and Tout Wars mix with Seth Trackman. We both have like 127 points. It's freaking crazy. And he has Erod. So I'm actively rooting against Erod, which is like a terrible way to spend my time. But that's my unbiased. That's my biased take. My unbiased take is, so we actually have another data point after July. And Erod had the one walk at Pittsburgh. So like the walk, it's all about the walks with Erod. And he has really reined that in. Only one start with 3 walks or more all season. The strikeout minus walk, like you cited, Bubba, in the 20s, that's always really good. That's a Greg Jewett benchmark for relievers, for starting pitchers. That's even better. So not worried at all about Erod in his 5.66 ERA in July. Personally wish it extends a little bit deeper into the season, but I don't think it will. I think he's looking pretty good.
Yeah, I think he's pretty good because even his last start, his first August start, the first inning he was horrible. He settled in and still like got through most of it. Like that's just what it's the Erod experience, man. Like
I hate watched it. I hate watched it. Don't worry.
Yeah, like I'm used to it for a guy that's rostered for, so I wasn't as in on him this year because I was being more cognizant of my whip. But like I picked him up off waiver wires and stuff, and as the season went on, when I needed strikeouts more, so whatever. I know what the experience is with Erod. I know what I'm getting myself into. All right, so I'm just going to kind of say, tell me if you want to talk about guys. Stroman's on the IL, so we got that going. Severino. Teheran's on the IL.
Tyler Wells is in
Double-A. You got Gonsolin, who I think is horrible. I've preached that a million times. Taj Bradley's in Triple-A. Joe Ryan's to the IL. Anybody else? There's a handful of like 3 other guys we haven't talked about here. Who would you like to speak on this list?
No, I mean, I'd be interested in your take on Taj, just because I know you've probably watched him a good amount.
Yeah.
Do you think he comes back up this year?
He might have to.
What happened? Yeah.
He might not have a choice.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just interested because I know you picked him up in a good amount of fab leagues and it looked like a really good pickup, and then all of a sudden it wasn't.
Yeah, he had like 100 almost 150 innings last year, so innings isn't an issue for Taj. He's only at like 90 right now. It's a combination of he's giving up home runs like crazy, at least one a game for 7 straight starts there. The walks were a bit of an issue of late, obviously based on what you just saw there, and strikeouts deteriorated a bit. So I don't know if it's the tired thing. Remember they set him down to put him on a different schedule to try to stretch like extra days and whatnot. If I just look at July alone, let me pull up July alone because that's when it really started going south because he had a run there where he was really good again. So July alone, if you got plate discipline, 11.3% swinging strike, it's okay. It's given a pretty healthy 86% zone contact, so that's not good. He's just not getting deep into games. He's walking dudes.
His workload, his workload.
That's what I mean. The workload's fine. He's fine. Yeah. They had like 150 innings last week. He's got 90. I'm just rounding off.
Fine.
He's fine. Way fine in innings. I just don't know because remember they sent him down earlier to stretch him out to a different set of like days between starts and stuff. It was such a weird dynamic with Taj. I think we see him again for 2 reasons. One, he has the innings. Why waste him in AAA? Besides the fact they're continuing for the playoffs, I get that. You don't want them to lose because of Taj trying to learn in the bigs. But 2, like we've talked about this Rays team here, and you look at who they're throwing out there. Taj, to me, talent-wise, is still better than these guys. Can he execute? That's a whole other story. But right now they only have Glasnow, Eflin, Lytle, and Savard. They're missing a 5th starter right now when they sent him down. Don't tell me Roster Ramirez is going to be that dude. We know the Rays are because he's the long reliever right now. We know the Rays are guys that are experts at doing the opener situation. So there's that. But even when you look at AAA, Cooper Criswell, Jacob Lopez, Nathan Wiles, like none of these. Brendan McKay's injured. None of these guys have ringing endorsements. So I think we see Taj again. This is, I think, a get right spot, kind of like an Alek Manoah situation. Go back down to the minors, go tweak some things, and come back. So I'm trying not to drop Taj Bradley right now if you can afford it. I think that's the roundabout where we were going with this question. And I would hold because the skills are still pretty good. They're not as good as they were earlier. I'm not naive to that, but I think they're still pretty solid.
All right. Interesting stuff. I like it. So Tyler Wells, I know we kind of glossed over him. It's kind of crazy and kind of, I guess, kudos to the Orioles for being proactive with this. Dude had over 100 innings of a 102 whip and got demoted. Like, there's got to be some kind of stat or Bloom
He's already hit
board.
his innings from last year, his workload from last year.
Yeah. So that probably played, and obviously the recent like collapse. But it's just interesting how, and this probably lead into one of the listener questions that we got. Interesting the roller coaster ride that is starting pitching, and not just this year, but it's just interesting how quickly these guys can rise or fall. And
yeah, it's just an interesting list. Like on the good side of the list, there's a lot of names that were like you could really negotiate, believe or not believe. You look at the bad side, it's like most of the guys are injured or demoted by now. It's like,
no,
yeah, that checks out.
outside of Framber, Erod, and I'd still climb on the Joe Ryan train once he's healthy. But yeah, it's
what
bad.
about Mackenzie Gore? Let's ask him real quick. 4.34 season long, 6.64 in July ERA, 17K to walk, 10% in July. This is the guy that people thought looked like was turning the corner, and it has really deteriorated of late.
Yeah, and this is like last year on repeat. So if you remember Mackenzie Gore, who has had injury issues throughout his entire career, I think this is a workload thing.
Oh, I just looked at that as 100%. Yeah, wow.
I mean, he was really good in April and May. Last year, it went to hell in June, and he was done by July. This year, like, he lasted a little bit longer, and you would think like he's building up the arm. I mean, he's from a workload standpoint, he's getting there. But he's, again, in uncharted. I just wrote this up this week for HQ. Mackenzie Gore was actually my cover boy on the column of potential September shutdowns. I don't see this turning around. I think Gore, just given the injury history, the lack of workload, it's not going to end well this season. Not to say don't be in on him again next year once he's fresh and that sort of thing, but I think it's purely a workload thing with Mackenzie Gore, and the Nationals have nothing to play for and push him.
Yes, folks at home, this is how you tee up your co-host, by the way. Yes, Mackenzie Gore right there. Yes, I'm with you on that. All I did was pull up his Fangraph page when you were talking, and I've obviously read the article, but it stands out like a sore thumb. 112 innings this year. He's already surpassing things quickly. So, yeah, keep an eye on those scenarios, and it's just very interesting to see some of these shifts here. And the biggest takeaway I have, and I've said it on other shows I do, I don't know how some of these teams are going to fill rotations down the stretch.
I know, man.
Like, it is,
I know,
because doing DFS and seeing the everyday pitchers that come out, it's like usually you expect most teams after like their third pitcher, okay, it's going to deteriorate a little bit. Cool. Most teams barely have one right now.
Like, so like we haven't, like Mitch Keller's on this list, 6.28 ERA in July, gave up 8 more earned runs today. Like, if Pittsburgh shuts him down, who's walking through that door? Like, God, it's gonna be an ugly September.
It's brutal, very, very brutal. But all right, Bloom Board was fun as always. Let's take a few listener questions. I think we answered most of it already with our Funky Cole Medina discussion, but we'll talk about what we've got here. First, that's not the one. Before we get going, I had a special question sent to me. He quote tweeted a picture of you, though, so it wasn't quote tweeted, I guess. But Oregon Ducks, our buddy, your buddy here, he says, BD answer, question for you for the pod tonight. A couple of weeks ago, I pointed out an error on a Bloom board, and Ryan responded saying he was crossing my name off the FPAS golf list. Do you know of a course close by I can play while you guys are playing Dobson Ranch? Scott. Just want to bring that to your attention.
Yeah, I don't need these nitpicks on my expert analysis here. I think there's a putt course in the in the right field.
There's Top Golf in Scottsdale. I can go over there.
Go over there.
But he had an actual question based on this. He says, I have Stroman and Ryan on the IL after being diagnosed with inflated ERAs. He's in a roto. They're put on the IL after being diagnosed with inflated ERAs. He's in a roto league, 7x7, holds and saves, quality starts, and walks per 9. Should I replace them with relief pitchers to work on ratios, or with waiter fodder like Lorenzen, Josiah Gray, Wade Miley, Drew Smiley are the best SP options? Take Lorenzen.
I mean, yeah, take Lorenzen. Take a look at Medina. Other than that, I would lean more. Even look like an Emmett Sheehan, who I think may have got like a 4-inning save tonight.
He got the save tonight, yes. Go look at Lytle.
Go follow Bubba's streamers. Not mine.
Go get Steven Matz if he's available.
Go get Steven Matz. So yeah, there are a few of those guys that are out there. I would say, like, in terms of IL, I don't know if there's a decision to be made there between Stroman and Joe Ryan, but I would take Joe Ryan all day, rest of season over Marcus Stroman, just the way that's gone. So, and of course, the simple cop out. Just what do you need category wise? But
yeah,
in a 7x7, who the hell knows?
Well, if it's holds, saves, and those ratios that he has, like Ks per 9 or whatever, you could get a pretty good, like, go get Andres Munoz if he's available. Throw that one out there. Carlos Hernandez. Some of those guys we talked about the other night. Rand Simon has a comment here. Isn't starting pitching all a crapshoot? Burns, Alcantara, awful, then great. Joe Ryan, amazing through the first half, now unplayable. Christian Javier, ? So many examples of this. How do we really know who's good and who isn't? This is the game we play.
The answer is you don't.
You don't.
We don't. I mean, like, a lot of people put a lot of research into this and come out with their starting pitcher rankings every year, and it just blows up. And we saw on the our All-Star break episode, like, the early starting pitchers, like, a lot of blow-ups. And despite having StatCast and spin rates on every pitch and mixing, we're not any better at predicting this than we have been. So, like, the other thing to this side of this coin is, like, yes, starting pitching is kind of a crapshoot, but also, like, what are you going to do about it? Like, you can't just fade starting pitching. You have to draft starting pitching, and you have to draft, I think, a lot of it. I think you kind of have to lean into it and just volume your way through it if you can, and stream hitters. It's kind of how I look at it. Yeah. But, like, no, I mean, to sit here and predict, like, who's going to have good, bad year, it's a total crapshoot. Like Christian, I mean, and even we just talked about Christian Javier, who through May, we both had it as a top 10 pitcher ending the season, had a sub-3 ERA through May. You think, like, I mean, we're golden. This is a breakout. This is a call of the year. And then it just completely falls apart. It's frustrating, but it's the game, man.
It's the game we play. You mentioned Woodruff. He got hurt. He had a sub-1 ERA. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, and they get hurt, and like
Vlad put a tweet out that for qualified pitchers, there's no pitcher right now with a WHIP below 1 on the season. You have to narrow it down to 40 innings pitched to get a guy with a sub-1 WHIP. That tells you where things are. It's just, I think another takeaway besides what you said, stream hitters and everything. I think I'm 100% with you on that. We've talked about that. Curlin brought it up in a tweet a while back.
Yep.
I think it's also, the veteran, the big pitchers, like he's talking about, it is what it is. You're kind of handcuffed. But a lot of the non-elite pitchers, be real quick with ad drops. Just, like, don't try to be like, oh, look they're going to turn it around. Well, 6 starts later, and now you're sitting there just done. Like, you need to be really quick to the trigger on some of these peripheral guys, I think, compared to hanging around.
Like, I was not with Lance Lynn, and you had a quicker trigger on Lynn, and that burned me. So
I have not dropped him. He's just been on my bench. Yes. Yeah. He's not getting started for sure. Thunderdam Pilo, my buddy from Roto Baller, he says regression comes for everyone. Just wrote an article about Medina, Matz, Tyon, Gomber today. Perfect timing because he wants to know Bubba and Ryan. Curious to your thoughts on Medina. I feel like he's the biggest success turnaround story on your list. I think we kind of agree.
I think so. I mean, walk rate dependent, but again, those last 4 starts, he has been able to limit the walk. So as long as that happens, I like it a lot. The regression thing's interesting. Like, just one quick thing on starting pitching too is just entered my mind. It's just a rock. So, like, if you got a pitcher with a 3 ERA, he doesn't go out there 6 innings, 2 earned runs every time. It's 0 earned runs. It's 1, it's 2, it's 1, it's 0. Then it's like 8, then it's 7. Like, it's to get to that 3 ERA or 4, whatever, it is such a rocky road. And it feels more, there's a lot more variance with pitching than there is with hitting, just because and trying to time it is even harder. So
for sure. Buddy, the War Dog on Twitter, Team Nolan Jones in the house. He also asked, how real is Luis Medina? He's real. He's faux real. So have some fun with that. Rob DiPietro, the Deadpool hitter, hits us up. Hits Ryan up, actually. Ryan, how does it feel to be a market setter? I was looking at the top 2 early meatball DC, and you took Justin Steele at 295. His DC ADP all season was 285, and the main event ADP was 294. So you got a discount, apparently. I think he was just trying to snipe me on him, but what was your thoughts on this one?
Felt good. Almost as bold as my Braxton Garrett min.
I almost responded to the tweet, but I just left it alone. Come on, I know he'll bring this up on the show.
That's the league where I took Garrett. This was again before, so we drafted the first 8 rounds.
We'll be
in August.
drafting pretty soon.
Probably drafting it again soon. Jeez. But we had no ADP, no projections or whatever. I picked Braxton Garrett in like the 13th round, and I think it was like 200 picks above his ADP. But yeah, that's the aforementioned league where I have Acuna and 25 hitting points. So I'm not going to sit here and claim greatness because that's been a disaster on the other side.
Yeah, he's no Mickey Moniak. That's all I have to say. But yeah.
Yes.
All right. I just had to throw that in there every time I can because it's the weirdest thing that worked out.
First place.
It's the weirdest thing that worked out. But we'll wrap it up there. Another episode in the books. Another fun episode, good episode. Hopefully people gain some good information out of this episode, like we talk about, and Ryan and I talk off the air a lot, is it's getting tougher and tougher to get topics that are appropriate to get you home to the stretch run here. So final thoughts, Ryan, as we are into August and we have about, what did we say, 7 fab periods left last time we talked?
Well, yeah, we'll bring this thing home somehow, some way. We'll do it.
We'll land this plane.
We will. I don't know what we'll do next week. Probably something with, we try and switch off hitters, pitchers every week. So come up with something for you all. And if you're still listening at this point in late July, early August, whatever month it is, we appreciate it. So,
yep, most definitely. Football, it doesn't really start for another month. So just remember that, folks. But that'll do it for us. We'll be back with you guys next week, as always, next Thursday night, and much more fun there. Hopefully some more cool news and notes, because this week's news was much different than it feels like weeks past, like much more relevancy. So I think we'll have some stuff to talk about yet again. You can check out Ryan on the X at RyanBHQ. I am at BD Entrick in the podcast at Bubba Bloom Pod. This is Bubba and the Bloom, episode 68. Catch you guys next time.